Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
I call the honourable member Louise Upston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been following this debate very carefully from my office, Mr. Chair, as a member of the Education and Science Select Committee who heard the submissions. I'm somewhat staggered at some of the comments that the opposition are making about this particular bill. And this clause is about the commencement and the transition date for the 1st of January 2012. And actually, I think, Mr. Chair, more than anything else this evening, they are petrified that this bill actually might pass and come into force, because they've spent more energy fighting this than any other bill.
Order. Member said the point of order on the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Chair, I'd like you to rule as to whether the word petrified is an appropriate term to use about members. Mr. Chairman, you're not allowed to say frightened. There's a whole list of things that you're not allowed to say. That's a much worse word.
Well, I didn't even flinch at the word. There's been much stronger language used, and members make disparaging remarks all the time about things like this. It's not a personal reflection. I'll let the word stand. Further point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Chairman, I noted that the member said that we're referring to the commencement of the bill.
No.
Mr. Chairman,
no,
that I think is in clause 2.
Order.
I think she correctly referred to transition. I think it is clause 9 that we're referring to, and you should bring her back to that.
Thank you. Can the member speak to the clause 9?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I was talking about the fact that the transition arrangements come into force on the 1st of January 2012, and that's also the intended date for when this bill would take effect. And that's, of course, what the opposition don't want to have. And in terms of clause 9, this is a fantastic clause, and I'll tell you why, Mr. Chair. Because it means we're coming to the end of the committee stage of this bill. Which is great news indeed, and one of the things that's been sadly lacking in this debate has been the voice of the students. We've heard all about the students' associations, not much about the students, which is very common to what that side of the House do. If you're talking about education, they talk about the teachers. They don't talk about the students, they don't talk about the parents. So I want to talk about the students because, Mr. Chair, actually I think that they are big enough and ugly enough and wise enough to make their own choices about whether or not they become members of a student association. And unfortunately, that side of the House don't trust them enough to make that kind of decision. So we have some simple transition arrangements built into clause 9, but really the wider issue is the fact that students are entitled to have their choice just like any other organisation, whether it's a union, whether it's Greenpeace, whether it's the Automobile Association. It doesn't stop those organisations from delivering the vital services that I know that the student associations provide. So it's not about some ulterior motive that you guys think that there is around getting rid of student associations. Sorry, Mr. Chair. It's about the fact that Clause 9 puts in place some sensible transition arrangements for this legislation, that it comes in on the 1st of January. And I'm pleased that Mr Mallard thinks I've been here for 5 years. He's obviously taken lots of notice, but this particular bill is one that he's taking lots of notice of today because he is one of the ones that so desperately doesn't want it to pass. But if you talk to students, and actually I want to bring you the voice of one in particular, because this House has talked about students who oppose this and the fact that there was overwhelming opposition in the Select Committee. Well, I'll tell you what actually happened with some of these students, and I actually felt sorry for this one in particular. I got an email from this particular person about the legislation, of which I emailed in response. She then came back to me and said, actually, I didn't put my name on any email. I didn't give information about my opposition to this bill. Somebody else has done that. And it was quite curious. I'd be interested to know just how many of these supposed opposition to this bill came from that kind of email. So I'm bringing the voice of real students who are saying that they do want to be able to choose, just like anyone else can, about what organisations they are members of and what organisations they are not. This side of the House trusts them. We believe that they have the freedom to choose, and if there is an association that is delivering services that they value, the students will continue to support the association. They will continue to support the association who are delivering services of value to them, and that's why we don't have a concern like the opposition do around the services that student associations or student unions provide. And so that's one of the things that's been so sadly missing in this debate, Mr Chair, and it's so important for us on this side of the House to trust students, to trust their choice, to enable them to make a decision about whether they are a member of a union or not, and that they are able to make sensible choices of their own free will about how and where they spend their money, and they are not forced. They are not forced into a situation where they have to be a member of a student union, which they wouldn't otherwise do. And a lot of the people that have been discussing this issue, particularly on social media channels over the last few months while the filibustering has been going on with the Royal Society Bill, those are the voices that have been coming through loud and clear.
Point of order, the Honourable Pete Hodson.
Mr Chairman, in light of the remark of the Speaker who's just resumed her seat, that we need to hear the voice of students in this debate and have not, I seek leave to table the submission of Ben Milson into the Education Freedom of Association Amendment Bill.
Is there any objection to that course of action being taken? There is. I call the...
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order.
In light of the remarks of the member who has just resumed her seat, that we have not heard from students in this debate and need to, I seek leave to table the submission of Ben Nettleton into the Education Freedom of Association Amendment Bill.
Is there any objection to that course of action being taken?
Let's hear the voice. Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Pete Hodson.
In light of the remarks of the member who has just resumed her seat, that we have not heard from the voices of students in this debate and that we need to, I seek to leave of the House to table a submission by Ben Suppo into the Education Freedom of Association Amendment Bill.
The member has sought leave. Is there any objection to that course of action being taken? There is.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Chris Tremaine.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just in light of what the member across the House is attempting to do, I understand that the submissions that he is proposing to table in the House have all previously been tabled in the House through the submission process, and that what he is trying to do is to trifle with the Chair, and this is superfluous to the debate in the House this evening.
To the point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallow.
Mr Chairman, my understanding is that the submissions have not been tabled in the House but tabled in the committee, the select committee, rather than in the House, sir. And therefore, sir, they have not been tabled in the House, and therefore the member is certainly allowed to do. The House has an absolute right, of course, to decline to receive them, but there is no doubt at all, sir, that this member has the right to seek leave for any action.
Can I just thank the honourable member for his contribution and refer him to Speaker's Rulings 142(1)(2). It mentions submissions to select committees where the e-committee system provides for them to be published on the parliamentary website. So it means that they are already available to the House. So therefore, the member is unable to table them as they've already been part of the House's records.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Pete Hodson.
Point of order. Mr Speaker, can I make this point of order carefully? In light of the remarks of the member of the Select Committee, who is also the member who has just resumed her seat, that the voice of students has not been heard in this debate and ought to be, I seek leave to table the submission of Benjamin Michael William Hocking into the Education Freedom of Association Amendment Bill.
No, I'm not going to put that. The reality is here under Speaker's Ruling 142(1) that these documents are freely available. I'm going to call the next speaker.
Point of order, Mr
Chairman. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallow.
Point of order, Mr Chairman. Mr Chairman, I would like to read to you 1421 and explain exactly what it does say. It says the primary purpose of the procedure for seeking leave to table documents is to inform debate by making available to members documents that would otherwise not be available. It is not desirable for members to seek to table documents that are already available as part of the House's proceedings, such as replies to questions of written answer, parliamentary papers, select committee reports, Hansard, or the standing orders. Now, sir, that is a matter which is absolutely clear, and I agree with the report of the Standing Orders Committee. It was a unanimous report. It is not a desirable practice, sir. But that Speaker's ruling, sir, does not mean that a member cannot seek the leave. It says it is undesirable. And much as I hesitate to suggest that my colleague, the Honourable Pete Hodson, is partaking in undesirable activity, sir, it is his right, Mr Speaker, to seek leave to table those documents. And while there is an indication here, sir, 1421, which you have quoted, is not a prohibition.
Speaking to the point of order, the Honourable Chris Tremaine.
Thank you, Mr Chair. In light of that submission to the Chair, can I point the Chairman to 1422? The first sentence of that makes it very clear, Mr Chair, that leave should only be sought to table papers that are not readily available from other sources. Well, clearly these papers are available to the House on the website. They were tabled as submissions into the Select Committee. They are readily available, sir.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Chairman, again, that matter is very easily dealt with because 1442, you only need to get to the second word should. Mr Speaker, it does not say may, it says should. And if it said leave may not be sought, then it would be clear, it would be absolute. Should, I think, reflects number one, which is an indication of lack of desirability, Mr Chairman. Should not is an indication of desirability, whereas if it said may or may not, then it is something which is a definite ruling. In this case, sir, and I know, I remember Mr Speaker Turncoat Tapscott in 1996, and the number of rulings that he made were innovative and different. But this one, sir, it stood the test of time, and it was very deliberately should. And if speakers wanted to make it may, they would have.
Order. No, I'm not going to. Can I just say, and all of us have been in this House for a long time, that the Speaker has put, actually did it in question time, that has not put leave when it is sought to table documents that are available to the House. These are available to the House. The matter has already been dealt with previously in this debate. I saw it as I watched it from my office. I'm going to call the next member, the Honourable Member Gareth Hughes.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Member Pete Hodson.
Mr Speaker, as you've just pointed out, you've been in this House for a while and so too have I, and we know one another's proclivities, and I leave it for you to decide whether or not I engage freely in undesirable activity in this House or not. You can just make your judgment on that. But I'm wanting to make a point to you as follows. The member who has just resumed her seat was on the Education and Science Select Committee. She came down to the House from her office. She then took a call to say that she had been outraged and appalled. Yes,
point of order, a short
yes,
to the point.
We're getting there. To say that although she was unhappy with
Order. And I just say to members on my right that when there's a point of order being taken, it's heard in silence. Order. Call the Honourable Pete Hodson.
Point of order, Mr Chairman. Before we go back to that, sir.
Point of order, Mr Chairman.
Well, before, the members on his seat, sir, you had an interjection as you sat down from Dr Mapp, sir. I mean, you ruled on Sandra Gowdy and you had another one and you did nothing about it.
I called the member to order. The member will be seated. I call the Honourable Pete Hodson.
Speaker, so the member who had resumed her seat came to the House in order to make a contribution, not only about the poor quality of the opposition debate as she saw it, but about this fact that students were not being heard in this debate and should be heard, and she made it very with great particularity. And it's on the basis of that, that I